Hey, a warm welcome to my friend Mitch Schneider. I lost track of time. I don't know how long it's been, how many you've been on, but I'm honored to have you on again.
It's great to be here. It's an honor to be asked.
Wow. What the hell is that around your neck?
That is called clumsy.
Oh,
That's what we
no.
have named the cast. We have named the cast clumsy.
The cast is clumsy. You broke your arm. For anyone who's listening audio and you can't see the video, Mitch has a cast.
On
And
his left
so
hand.
there's got to be a.
My
Huh?
non-dominant appendage, as the
Oh,
doctor.
it's the left one. Oh, well, golly.
My
Well,
non-dominant
then
appendage.
there's no problem. You could survive with just one arm. I can't imagine the
It's a
things.
lot more inconvenient than you think it is.
Oh, trust me, I know, because it was my right arm when I was in junior high that I broke. A tree fell on me. It's a long story, and it broke way up near the socket, and it pulled apart. And the doctor said there's not much we can do but set it, just like yours is. The whole elbow thing, talk about itching and scratching. Well, I went through all of 7th grade, almost a year, 6 months with the cast, and then another year of immobility, and no gym, no outdoor activities during that really formative time of my life. And that's when I got a little chubby. I won't forget that.
Yeah, it is. I wish I had a story that was as exciting as that. I mean, I was walking.
You were
I was
walking.
My right foot stopped. The rest of me didn't, and
no.
just went forward. Tried to catch up, which was probably the worst thing I could do. The thing that really frustrates me more than anything else is that I know how to fall. I mean, I've been trained on how to fall.
Well,
and
I
started to go down. I started to go down that way and roll into it, and then at the last minute, I reached out with my left hand and straight armed the asphalt.
Yeah, you're a martial arts person. I mean, one of the things that I don't think people understand about Misfire, the book, is how incredibly, self-indulgent that book was. When I read it, knowing how much you knew about martial arts, and you taught me an awful lot that I didn't know about martial arts by just reading Misfire.
Thank you.
Oh,
that's a really high compliment.
Look at I came to respect the discipline, I guess, that and how you connected the discipline of martial arts to the success of the shop owner, martial arts expert. And all I could think of was you were the guy, you were him.
Well, I mean, discipline is critical to success in any kind of an endeavor, right? You've got to show up. And as my dad always said, you got to want to fix the car. You got to want to fix the business. You got to want to fix the car. You got to want to whatever it is that you need to do. And discipline's one of those D words we talk about in the book that's so critical. I wish there was another chapter on C words like character and commitment and words like that. But, they say about the cutting room floor, I was talking to somebody about the book earlier this morning, and it was really funny. And they were talking about all the lessons that were all in the chapters and whether or not it was meant to be that way. I said, every chapter that's in that book had a fight for space in the book because there were a bunch that didn't make it.
Oh, boy.
So
outtakes.
Those were good lessons.
We need outtakes. We need to have the little paperback on what didn't make it.
We're working on that. I got slowed down. I was almost done with the edit of the first supplement, the first handbook on customer care.
Yeah, I see that.
And I was just ready to start writing the last two chapters that I was going to add to that book. And this slowed me down somewhat, but it won't stop me because I've discovered that my Mac comes with dictation software.
Oh, you have, yeah. And I would, I think a lot about that. I mean, just about anything I touch also has dictation. And I keep thinking, why am I typing when I could be speaking? I've got microphone in my office, microphone in the studio. I mean, I could be doing all of that, but somehow
it's a different discipline.
Isn't it?
It's very different. It's got to be something that comes from a different part of the brain.
So it's mind to fingers. I can't get the mind to mouth to work yet. I can come in a studio totally unscripted, off the cuff with Mitch Schneider here, and and it works.
But
Mind to mouth, it works.
two friends having coffee.
It's just two friends having coffee.
That's it. We might as well be in the car talking about comedians. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really, yeah. God. Well, we can't because of COVID. Has COVID affected, your whole recovery, everything with you, or are you being careful?
Well, I mean, other than the fact that I had a year to practice before anybody else started, I was way ahead of the curve.
Yes, you did.
When it comes to isolation and distancing and I was wearing a mask I wore a mask the whole time I was in the hospital and when I got out. So from February, from March, the end of March until now. So it's been over a year.
Would you do me a favor? Go look up an old picture of you wearing a mask and then put it out on social media and say the aftermarket poster boy?
I've got, what do you call it? If you want to know about it. Three masks.
Yeah.
Three masks. There we go. We've got to get them in the shot.
Got it. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All the same. They all come in one color, black.
Yeah. I see that.
Any color you want as long as it's black. Actually, they come in different colors, but you can't buy them now. People want to know how come I have a mask? I said, because I bought them all before there was a run on them.
Yeah, you had bought them all, and they look like very expensive masks.
They are.
Yeah.
They're all N95s.
They're all N95s.
The coolest one I have is in the other room, though. That's the one that's got Space Invaders on it.
Well, look at whatever you want to talk about. I got a couple of things that went through my mind. You wrote articles for years. I used to love getting the magazines back in the industry. I couldn't wait to read Mitch Schneider. Any favorite articles or topics you loved to write about?
Oh, yeah. Let's go back to the beginning. There was an article that I wrote very early in my writing career called The Teller of Tales. It's actually one of Tony Muller's favorite articles. If you
cool.
Get him on the side, you can ask him about it. He'll tell you about it. Was
he your editor back then?
No, I was still at Motor Service then.
Okay. Tony
was the guy who got me to go from Motor Service to Motor Age.
Yeah.
And then left.
Yeah.
Then went on to other things and left me hanging. It was a great, I had a great career in Motor Age. I got nothing to say but the best of things about my time there, or my time at Babcock's was a wonderful experience.
Yeah,
working
for the Babcock. All good people.
They're incredible people. The aftermarket is blessed to have people like that involved, probably more than they appreciate or understand. But The Teller of Tales was about an era in which there were no cars or trucks that ran because the people entrusted with their care and custody had been ignored and had all gone away. So every once in a while, the storyteller in an automotive repair shop, everybody would come in, and while he was working on this ancient vehicle to get it to run, he would tell them stories. So The Teller of Tales had to be one of my very, very favorite columns because it looked into a very dark future that is still very possible, about the nature of change that was going to occur in our business if we didn't pay attention.
Mitch, I just did some research on some trending topics in the industry, and I did bump across an article that showed the city of New York streets the way they're so empty, back at least a month and a half ago, and saying that that's the future. And I started to read the article and realize how left-leaning it was. And I'm not talking about picking a side here, but how the world would be better without vehicles, period. And I got a weird feeling about, those kinds of articles that are being written, and with 200 plus million vehicles on the road,
I don't know if the world would be better. I think that we could be more responsible environmentally. I know that while everything was shut down here in Los Angeles, the sky has never been that blue since I've been here. That starts in 1962. There was one morning where we had an appointment at the City of Hope, and there's a point at which you transition from one freeway to from the 118 freeway to the 210
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you come around a bend and you could see forever. I mean, you could see so far that you could see the mountains that you can never see, and you could see that there was snow on the mountains. And it was beautiful. It was just inspiring. But I don't know that. I think that things will change dramatically. I think that there will be far less cars. I think we've already seen statistics and surveys that show that millennials are not as tied to personal transportation as their parents are or their grandparents are. They're just as likely to take a Lyft or an Uber or alternative transportation. So I think that things are going to change. And I think that one of the few things that's going to mitigate the shortage of technicians that we're going to find ourselves in, that's been increasing over time, is the fact that the demand will slack off as the technological ability of the industry to fix those cars increases. There'll be fewer people working on fewer cars, but the technology will be much more sophisticated, I believe.
So like a specialist, Mitch, where you're going to go to a GP for, it hurts me over here. You're going to probably go to a specialist if you have any other than maintenance, undercar problems. You're going to have to go to a brainiac. I mean, it's kind of one of my favorite words. A person who goes to school all the time. Yeah. I mean, you probably had an ortho.
This is shoulders, elbows, wrists, hands, period.
That's all the guy does.
That's all the guy does.
Yeah, that's my point.
And I was sent to him from a guy who only does hips, knees, ankles, and feet.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? That gives me comfort. I mean, I have an eye issue, and I went to an eye surgeon because, of course, the normal eye doctor wasn't going to touch it. And, okay, so is that where automotive is going to go? Or are we just going to have the experts in a Euro shop just do Euro A to Z? Or are we going to have a Euro maintenance shop and a Euro diagnostics shop? I mean, could we ever blur? Could we ever focus that way? Or are we just going to keep blurring?
I think there's going to be an attempt to focus that way, and I think that it's going to get blurred. I think that both answers are correct to a degree, but the electronic content of the vehicle has gotten to the point where it's so sophisticated that I don't know that any generalist is going to be able to handle it. They may understand it, but I don't know that they'll understand it with a depth of knowledge sufficient to diagnose it. So I don't know. I know that there are problems that I've seen friends of mine have with their vehicles that they have had great difficulty getting resolved. And that's including the dealership network. As a matter of fact, most of the time they've gotten the problem resolved outside the dealership network because they were the only ones that would dedicate the time necessary to figure out what was wrong with it and then fix it. So, which I thought was really interesting.
Thank you for your observation. The book, how's the book going?
Slow but good.
Good. Every chance I have to talk about it, I do, and because I love the book. It how do we make this the encyclopedia of our business?
I don't know. I got to send you a copy of it. Did I send you a copy of the audio?
No.
I have to send you a copy of the audio. Oh. I will write myself a note when I
How did that work out? Everything good?
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Oh,
I'm going to tell you a funny story about that.
Sure.
Leslie and I had to go up the coast for a specific appointment. We try really hard not to leave the house. We can avoid it based upon COVID and everything else that's going on. But it was the first time that we were both in the car and we had a chance to listen to the audio. And I had a chance to listen to it without editing it or without critiquing it or without working on it in some capacity. Actually had the opportunity to listen to it like a reader would read it or a listener would listen to it. And I don't know, we were in the car about a half an hour when Leslie looked over and said, "This is really good."
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Do you know this is really good?" I said, "God, I hope so. I mean, I spent more than 2 years of my life, dedicated to this. She said, no, but the narration's really good.
Yeah, good. So you got a voice actor that could play all the roles?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that was.
Well, I mean, somebody I know and I care about deeply was offered that opportunity and chose not to take advantage of it.
I don't mean, you were so kind to say, Carm, would you love to at least audition to read the book? And, I was so honored and so touched to even be considered for it. So much on my plate. And I just needed to dedicate every ounce that I had to reading the book for you. I would have probably not focused to the point where it would have been good enough. So I was smart enough.
We had a great voice actor do it, and he did a really, really great job. So I'm really pleased with the way it came out. And the sales are slow. They're picking up slowly, but it's like putting your shoulder against. It's like anything else worth accomplishing in life. You just put your shoulder against it, you lean on it, you push it. The wheel turns slightly, and then ever faster. You push it uphill.
I know you're doing everything you can to promote it, and when someone like me reads the book and can't put it down, and a week later, because it's a thick book, between everything else going on in your world, a week later you read this thing, and then you get on a bully pulpit and say to anybody, "This is the book. There's this is the book." And
I was talking to somebody about it this morning, and for a book they're reading, it's part of a book club, and they chose to read Misfire as part of the book club, which was a great honor. I was really, really jazzed about it, and they were talking about problems that they were having with the book. Which for an author, it's wonderful to have that insight into what's going on when people are actually reading it, what they're taking out of it. And the biggest problem they were having is that everybody kept reading ahead. Everybody's they're supposed to read certain sections and then wait for everybody else to catch up, and nobody's doing that.
I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that because it's kind of like watching an episode of your favorite TV show in the binge mode. You why should I watch it every week, go through the commercials, wait till it goes on pay-per-view or streaming, and then you sit down and you watch 4 or 5 episodes one night and you say, you get that. Yeah, I know. You got to keep going. Hey, back to school. It was just a few years ago. Were you really, really good in school?
The honest answer is no. I had the attention span of a gnat. If we had a classroom that had a window, I was screwed because I'd be staring out the window. I had the horsepower mentally to be good at whatever I was doing, and I mean I've got all the report cards that say Mitch is bright, intelligent, articulate, is not living up to his
he's a great C student that could be an A if he stopped looking out the window. I know.
And then when I discovered fixing cars, and I was every class I went to had my undivided attention. And then when I went back to writing again, storytelling again, it's fun. I've always been a storyteller. But when we lived in New York, we lived in Oceanside, we had a house and we had a big bedroom, and all 3 of us lived in the same. My 2 brothers and I were in the same bedroom, and the only way we could get them to sleep at night was if I would tell them stories. So I used to make up stuff using superheroes from the comic books, right? And I would make up my own scripts. So
you have an incredible gift for words and how you put it together. Every time I ever read an article throughout all the years, I've probably read hundreds of them. They weren't hard to read, just like Misfire. They were, you write, I guess maybe at my level, but you write so, it's easy, so easy to read. When you think of the word successful, who comes to mind?
Whoa, that's a hard question. That's a great question. That's a hard question. It's a really good question.
We could leave that in abeyance here. We could just kind of put a pin in it and you could think about it.
When I think of the word successful, who comes to mind?
Yeah.
The first person I thought of was my hematologist oncologist. Wow. And he'd be the first one to argue with you about that. I don't know. That's hard. I don't know that I'm even going to be able to do that, even if with the pin in it.
That's
That may
okay.
be another
No,
show. But
I love it. I'm cool with that. You're opinionated when you write. You're opinionated. You're telling stories of the things you feel,
yes,
and um,
and I am
anything.
opinionated.
Yeah, anything in the last couple of years that has moved or changed your mind over your convictions of all these years?
Oh, I'd be a fool if I said no. The diagnosis in 2014 changed everything. That was a game changer. Um, the recognition, when a doctor tells you to go home and get your things in order, get your house in order, um, it's a very sobering message. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And when I worked diligently to train my body to be prepared for stem cell bone marrow transplant, if I was lucky enough, if I was fortunate enough to be accepted into that program, and I was, and the transplant itself was a humbling experience. I mean, certainly on an intellectual level, when you recognize that a complete stranger halfway across the world in Israel gave me stem cells from his body that saved my life. And to this day, I have no idea who he is or where he is, other than the fact that at the time he was 18 and an Israeli who had 12 of the 14
Markers?
markers that I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So chances are, if I find a picture of him, he'll look like I did when I was in high school. It could be a relative, I suppose, but I don't know. In any case, that certainly changed my life dramatically and gave me a sense of purpose and sense of purpose to give back, to leave something tangible behind, a real legacy. And I think a legacy beyond just all the columns that I've written over the years. And
is the book
I'm
in that
gifted.
category? Is the book in that category?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you were diagnosed in 2014. The book was already underway?
I had written a couple of chapters. I wouldn't have called them chapters at the time, but I had written what I considered an expanded column.
Mm-hmm.
Something that could have been 3 or 4 months worth of columns. And then I had put it away. And I found it while I was looking, like so many other things, I found it while I was looking for something else, and I started to read it. And I said, this is good. I mean, this is really interesting. This is something that I need to do. And it became a compulsion.
Yeah.
I mean, it just took over my life. I said, I need to do this. And then, you've read the book. It's a 400-page book. The initial second draft was 167 pages. And it really, the couple of people that I trusted to look at it came back and told me that it needed more development. The characters were flat. They were two-dimensional. So I went back and I started to work on it again until I got it right and finally succeeded in doing that. But the book became that legacy project.
Sure. Mitch, it wouldn't have been the book without that character development, in my opinion, because you really got to relate to everybody, and you were looking for the hero inside of this whole thing. You were thanking the shop owner who was teaching the contractor, and you were fighting for both of them, really, and you were fighting for the shop owner to keep teaching, and you were fighting for the contractor to fix himself and his business.
Yeah, and they were both flawed. Both characters were flawed and needed to be, and we're a composite of so many people I've been privileged to know and work with in my career. I mean, they're all Frankensteins. They're all pieced together from people I've worked with and people that I know and people that I care deeply about, and they all have something to say. They all have something to teach us, I think. And in order for them to have taken up space in the book, they needed to fight for that space, just like the chapters needed to fight for, to fight to be there.
And they all didn't make it. I just found that out.
No, they all didn't make it.
Mitch and I have done, I think, 3 episodes in the past, Mitch, and one of them was on Misfire. Please, please, please read the book, but just go listen to Mitch and I just shooting the breeze about his world, his life, and of course, Misfire. We're in an unscripted. We have no agenda, no formal notes. Mitch says, "So what are we going to talk about?" And I says, "I don't know.
We're just hanging out.
We're just hanging out." And I do have my coffee, by the way. Yes, it's French roast right now.
French roast is that?
I love French roast. Been
Italian.
pleasantly surprised by.
I'm an Italian roast guy.
You are Italian? Okay.
Italian
roast
guy.
as much as French is bitter and so is Italian, I don't know. I prefer the French. Been pleasantly surprised by anything lately?
The genuine goodness of people. The genuine goodness of people. And you can go back to my Israeli, or you can go back to the fact that when I fell in the street, I tried to correct myself and I went down hard and I knew that I'd broken my elbow. I mean, I knew it was broken because I saw dead relatives. It was excruciating pain, exquisite pain. And there was a young man, a teenager, that was out in the front yard of his house across the street from the school that we were walking alongside, the property that we were walking alongside, who called his mother out from the house immediately. And he came running over to see if he could help in any way. We were walking with some friends of ours, and when I was finally coherent enough to speak, they said, we have a transport wheelchair in the house. Let me go get it for you so you don't have to walk, so that you can just sit down. So they ran in the house and they got the wheelchair. While they were getting the wheelchair, which we've been walking for about 2.5 miles, on this. We walk about 3 to 5 miles a day. And we had already gone about 2.5 miles. While they were getting the wheelchair, a guy in an SUV, in a white SUV, stopped his car and said, "Is everything okay? Can I help you? I will drive you anywhere you need to go. If you want to go to a doctor, I'll take you to the doctor. If you want to go to the hospital, I'll take you to the hospital." He said, "Whatever you do, don't call 911 because they're going to call an ambulance. It's going to cost you $1,800 to get from here to the hospital, and they're going to take you wherever they want to go, not where you want to go." So it was an amazing experience that they would do that. And the people with the wheelchair never asked, "Who are you? Can I have your name? You want to give me your phone number?" to get the chair back. I mean, they just said, "Here, you need this, take it." And the genuine goodness of others is something that inspires me every day. And it's the willingness of some people to do the right thing. And I think that's worth getting inspired over.
Great story. And with all the craziness going on in our world, I mean, we need to hear stories like that.
I think so. I mean, we need to experience things like that. And in order for you to experience them, I think you need to open yourself up to the universe to see what's really out there. And that if you judge the world that you live in strictly by what's on the 6 o'clock news, you'll want to jump off a bridge. But there's so much more than that going on. There's so much goodness and so much caring.
There is, but it's not being discussed. It's not being shown. It's not being heard. And this is just hitting me really hard. Thank you, because you said jump off a bridge, and I was going to say the highest ones so that it works. You got to make sure it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I live in a 1-story house, so it wouldn't do me any good. Jump out the window. I just fall into the hedges. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. If you had any request of my audience, Mitch, what would you say to them right now?
Oh, I would. The first thing I would tell them is that it's going to get better. This too shall pass. There was a story, if you look it up, if you go online, there's a 9-year-old kid that immigrated here with his family from, I think, Nigeria, who's a chess champion. who's trying to become a master. 9 years old, just started playing a couple of years ago. And he's a brilliant chess player. And he said something that I would share with your audience right now. I haven't written about it yet, so whoever's going to watch this will know where it came from when they find it in a column, because I'm still writing. And he was asked how he felt about losing a chess match. And he looked at the interviewer, and this kid is 9 years old, and he says, "You don't lose, you just learn."
Right.
You don't lose, you just learn. And it's like my head was going to explode.
But
I think
that's it.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it. It's like, you're going to make mistakes. Move on. Take every kernel of knowledge you can from what it is that you just experienced. Find the good in it. Figure out what you need to learn. What that challenge was presented to you for, right? Because it was presented to you so you could learn something from it and move on. Figure out what that something is, and then use it. Move on. Don't make the same mistake again.
But Mitch, you've always been like that. I mean, did this 9-year-old just say it differently?
He said it was just so. I mean, think of a number of words. You don't lose. You don't lose. You learn. 5 words.
5 words.
I mean, that's like a whole philosophy in 5 words. It's like elegant.
But think about your world, your life, your business, all the things you've done. You've failed forward, or you failed and you learned, you lost and you learned. I guess if you don't beat yourself up too bad, you can accept that learning.
I did a pretty good job of beating myself up when I failed. But I still managed to pull something positive out of that experience, so I could move forward and do a better job the next day, so that I could bring a better self, to whatever I was attempting the next day. But I think that those are the kinds of lessons that we really need right now. And I know that there are people that you meet that somehow manage to equivocate success in business with being smart, with being, strictly with being smart or being intelligent. And there are other elements that are involved in success. However, I think maybe that's why I had so much trouble with that question. It depends on how we define what success means, because there are many different kinds of success. I think to be if I were to consider myself successful in my life, and I think I've accomplished a lot of things. I don't know that I feel like that I am a success, because I still have lots of things left I want to do, I want to accomplish. And I tend to look forward to the next challenge rather than to where I am right now or where I've been before. If you're going to go ahead and try and figure out where you are. And I think that helps you to fall forward, because you're always leaning in that direction. You're always leaning into the next challenge. And I think that's important. So when we talk about people in the industry, those are the kinds of lessons I've always tried to bring to my writing, to bring to the seminars that I did. I mean, even the keynotes that I've delivered over the years, I think it's really critically important that we find the good and then exploit it as much as we can.
Mitch and I, in one of the podcasts that we did, we talked about those keynotes, and one of your earliest ones. You listen to me and Mitch do any of our episodes, and you've got, totally a wisdom track going on just listening to Mitch, and, I'm always so appreciative for him to come on. Do you have any guilty pleasures we don't know about?
Guilty pleasures.
Walking and not falling?
Walking and not falling would certainly be one of them. At this point, I can't wait to get back to spin class. I can tell you that for a fact.
Oh,
That
God.
puts me in such a happy place. I can't even begin to tell you.
Really?
But I can't, I can't until COVID's gone, and I can't anytime soon. Guilty pleasures. I love to read. Um, that's certainly a guilty pleasure.
How much time do you allow every day for reading?
I try to read 15 minutes a day,
Okay.
minimum of 15 minutes a day.
All right.
More if I can.
Yeah.
I got books all over the place. My wife hates me for it, I think. I've got stacks of them everywhere. I should take a couple of pictures and show them to you. I'm looking up at my desk right now. There's probably 300 books in a bookshelf right above my desk.
Yeah. Yep.
And
you know what? That's a great piece of advice. I interviewed an author today and got the book, and I knew that I had X amount of time to read it. So think about this. Here's my discipline. Even if I didn't have to interview the author and truly read the book from A to Z and understand it so that I could have a hell of an interview, John DeJulius, if I got a book because I just wanted to read it, and I didn't say, hey, please read this by then. If not, it just becomes dust, or it just becomes a collector. If you're not doing that 15 minutes a day and you're not sliding a book into that hierarchy. So that's a great thought of, people say, well, I can't read, but I can't find time. Well, get up 15 minutes early, do your 15 minutes, and presto, a couple of weeks, you got the book done.
well, I mean, that's one of the reasons we did an audio. It's because people can read it while they're on the treadmill. They can read it while they're in the car. They can listen to it wherever they are. But yeah, I think you got to want it, and if you are what you eat, and doctors and dietitians and nutritionists have taught us that we are, then you certainly are what you think, and you think what you read. So the more you expose yourself to a better diet of more nutritious ideas, the faster you're going to move ahead on your journey.
Any thoughts going on with you? Anything you want to bring up?
I love the people in our industry. I think they just have no idea. I mean, it took a long time before anyone told them that they were essential, and we've been essential all along. I just wish they could see themselves through my eyes and enjoy the respect, appreciation, and admiration they deserve for the service they provide the motorists. I mean, one of the big changes in my life occurred when I realized that we didn't fix cars. That's not the business we were in. That's not the business we should aspire to be in.
Yeah.
One of the big changes in my life came when I realized that we were in the freedom and mobility business, and that freedom and mobility had much more value than fixing broken cars. And I wish that I wish that they could see that. I wrote Misfire for a number of different reasons. We've talked about that before, but one of the reasons is that I think that it's so much easier to convey complicated life lessons in a story that's relatable and relevant than it is in a traditional format of academic study. So creating this world in which Kurt and Robert and Allie and Chao Li all lived and got to share their ideas is something that was important to me, because I think those people that read the book will have something that, once you've been exposed to something like that, you can't unlearn it. You can't unsee it. You can't unthink it. And that's what I hope for the people in this industry. I hope that they recognize how important they are and make the investment in their own future that they're going to need to make if they intend to be here 2 or 3 or 5 years from now.
So powerful. It took a pandemic to realize we were essential. I mean, well, there's the soundbite. And I'm not sure if we realize how valuable that was to our industry and to our state of mind, to our well-being.
I don't know how many people have realized it yet.
No, and the other thing is, you know, the case studies that we've been doing on technology and DVI and cloud-based and training and marketing, all of that stuff that we've been, as an industry, you and me, and the stories and the podcasts and every business coach and every great company that supports our industry, but going and teaching and training, and people saying, nah, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. And the early adopters, they just slid through this thing. And you know, because we were essential, it was so easy to be essential. But because we were essential and we had to learn new things over touchless and safety and security of our people and our customers, for the early adopters, it was easy for them to do. For the ones that were really belabored and crushed under the things that they needed to do to run a better business. And hey, I may be wrong and I may be on my soapbox, but somehow I think some of the things that I'm saying have merit.
Oh, I think that the lessons that some of us were forced to learn throughout all of the challenges that we've had to face, whether it was the recession in 2008 or any one of the number of other challenges that we've had, 9/11. I mean, you can go down the list, but the early innovators, the early adopters are the ones that we need to watch and share their message with the rest of the industry, because there's, as you move down those tiers, and we've talked about that before, if we move down those different levels of capacity, capability, that those lessons get lost and they get diluted. And as you said, there's a whole gang of, the majority of the industry perhaps that doesn't get it, is never going to get it. What's going to happen to them? Well, they may not know it, but they're going to, the dinosaurs that had no idea that they were going to go away. But there are people in this industry that are not going to be replaced. I think that you're going to find more shops get larger, become more sophisticated. Shop owners are going to learn how to run their shops better. New people are going to come into the industry that don't have any great love for the machine, but who understand business, that are going to run successful businesses. And there are people who are going to find out that the way they're running a business and the way they're approaching their business makes them less essential. Yeah. And it's going to be tragic. Wow. I'm going to put a pin in it, because that was profound and a good message. I think it's an important message. And yeah. The only way you can change the future is to be the future. Otherwise, instead of being proactive, you're being reactive. And I don't know that anybody's ever achieved great success by being reactive. No, never. So what's Bobby doing? Okay, I'll do that. What's Harry doing? Okay, I'll do that. It's like... and we're trying to do that with less information than they have. I know. Wow. Mitch Schneider, thanks for coming on again and just having coffee with me, man. Carm, you are one of the few people in the industry that no matter what I'm doing, no matter where I am, no matter what shape I'm in, I'll show up. I promise you. This was the broken arm episode. Broken elbow. Sounds like a bad Western, doesn't it? Yeah. Broken elbow. Mitch Schneider and Carm at the Broken Arm Corral. That's Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you, sir.